Politics is tough, and it's in many cases not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate very much a transition that's so smooth. It'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Jim.
You're welcome.
Hello everybody and welcome to today's episode of Common Sense View. I have a lot of nice things to talk about today, especially Trump made his first visit to the White House after leaving 4 years ago without even witnessing the ceremony that brought Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as the president and vice president of the United States. But before we go into that, to show the brief talk they had before they went into the secret meeting, I have a few other things to talk about. And one of them is the ground game between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And the next thing I want to talk to you about is the cabinet Trump has picked so far, how meticulous he was and how swift he has been doing it compared to the speed he had last time. As a matter of fact, he said it that last time around, he didn't know any person in Washington. But now, he knows them all. He knows the good, he knows the bad, he knows the sycophants, and he knows those who are real MAGA. So, but the end of this show, I'm going to show you a very beautiful compilation, if you want to gloat at the Democrats or MSNBC, about their reaction on the election day. I have a video that was made by America 2100, that's year 2100.org. For me, that is the best of every compilation I have watched here. It showed their smug, their disdain for every other person but themselves, their applaud to whatever they thought they had, and how that started gradually dying out until there was no light left. But I kept that so that after you watch me talk, you use that to delinquency. So without further ado, let us hop in. So yesterday, Donald Trump made his triumphant entry to the White House. You might imagine what it looked like. About half of Joe Biden's staff came out to see Donald Trump. And my question was, did they come out to see Hitler or one fascist somewhere there? No. They came to see the man, Trump, who they have been talking about. Some of them have not even seen him the first time. Yet they knew him as a Hitler, a killer, a misogynist, and a fascist. On the contrary, what happened inside was really, really nice to behold. I can say Joe Biden was gracious. He set aside all the bad things he has said, including calling him fascist, the mega MAGA, all those nonsense, the alt-right MAGA, all of those, and Jim Crow 2.0, all of those, Jim Eagle, all of those things. He was gracious. He promised to give him a resounding, smooth and selling handover. So,
Well, Mr. President-elect and former President,
Thank you.
Donald, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And looking forward to having like we said, a smooth transition. Do everything we can to make sure you're accommodated, what you need. And we're going to get a chance to talk about some of that today. So,
Good.
welcome.
Thank you
back.
very much. And thank you very much. And politics is tough, and it's in many cases not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate very much a transition that's so smooth. It'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Jim.
You're welcome.
So if you watch Joe Biden, you will see that he has a smile in the face, or a smirk. And that smile, according to Tessie Gabbard, was there all through. She couldn't imagine how he managed to keep that smile. But if you really follow this critically, he is the one that has a lot of causes to smile. He may not have been hitting it right, but he witnessed a soft skew against him by his own vice president, by people like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Barack Obama, and other bigwigs of the Democrat Party. And when they were for the I think it was burial of their soldiers, I don't know what they call it, I've forgotten what they call it. He said to Obama, I was a better candidate than him, according to mouth readers, and Obama agreed with him. And it's obvious because at the election days, CNN brought their board and they wanted to compare if there were any place or any county that Kamala performed better than Biden with more than 3 points. And there was literally none. That means they believed that he had, as the only one who beat Trump and the only one who could beat Trump, was still there. Anybody can make his or her own argument, but it remains valid. And for me, if you ask me, that is why he had this beautiful smile in his face. And that takes me to one of the points I said we are going to look into today. The groundwork of Kamala and that of Donald Trump. When you think about it, the Kamala Harris, they started with a campaign of vibe and joy. They called themselves joyful warriors. And the side of Trump, they called them weird. But the problem was that vibes don't win elections. Joyfulness don't get people to the polling center or getting them to vote. It is your strategy that does that, and they almost had none. Apart from her universe of salad or word salad, which characterized all her interviews and all her speeches and all her utterances, it was obvious, according to one of the reports, that in Michigan, they were nowhere to be found. But when you listen to MSNBC on the video I told you you'll be watching at the end of the show, when you listen to the people at the MSNBC, how they characterize it, that all Charlie Kirk was doing was all those stuff, that they had the game. Unfortunately, they overestimated themselves. Their smugness, their condescending, and their talking down to the people and not talking to them, talking with them, encountering the people in their own world, in their own universe. They lacked that. When Trump, all the stunts Trump made, which was a contrast to their own style, every single one of them was a hit. When he was wearing that garbage vest on the stage, it was obvious that even though he was a billionaire, he could understand that if you identify with people, they identify with you. Kamala Harris' election style or campaign style was more of love me, like me. But Trump was going from one podcast to another to earn people's trust. In a relationship, whether it is between husband and wife, or between father and mother, or between candidates and the voters, the most important thing is not like, appreciation, or love, or vibe. The most important thing is trust. We trust that he will fight for us. Yes, we love him, but it doesn't go so far. We love him, he makes us happy, he gives us rallies that are explosive. But what drives people to the poll is they trust you. But Kamala Harris, in the 3 months she was campaigning, was not able to build trust between herself and her voters. And because of that, she didn't have any, grassroots. She didn't have any grassroots. Not in 2019 when she was running first time around, and not this time around. On the contrary, the MAGA people followed Trump and they were ready to follow him to death. For instance, when he was shot at and nearly killed a butler in Pennsylvania, no single person left that place until they found out that he was alive and raised that iconic hand and say, fight, fight, fight. And the uproar that day was had no other place and no other time except the second time he visited Butler, when he started with, as I was saying. Those iconic points in time were what defined his campaign. And if you have been following, if you are a campaign strategist or you are somebody who follow politics, you know that campaign, positive or negative campaign, is all about soundbite in the right time. Soundbite and snapshot. You get a good soundbite, you get it at the right time, you win, you dominate the airwave. And Trump had a lot of that. The raiding of his house in Mar-a-Lago was one of those. The soundbite and the snapshot in time was he portrayed himself as a victim of the establishment, of the ruling class. And he said it in his own way that they are coming for you, I am only standing on the way. The next time was the shooting. The shooting made people fall in love with him for the first time. Because when he was explaining why he didn't just live with the security services, why he didn't live with them was because he wanted the people to know that he was all right. That was why when he got up, he wasn't caring much about his own safety because he knew he was in a good hand. Rather, he shouted, fight, fight, fight. And that is the second time. The next one was the McDonald's stuff. People may think that it was a miss. That is what the people in the MSNBC panel were thinking. They thought that it was a miss. But if you are observant, the people identify with those who identify with them. And you can imagine how a billionaire was much more able to connect with the people, common people, than somebody who claimed that she was born in a middle-class family. The third one was the garbage, and the nail on the coffin was avoiding Joe Rogan's podcast, but then going to call her Daddy Podcast. And he's not just going to her, but rebuilding her stage in a hotel and blowing out 100,000 on it. The ground game they had was their vibe, but the vibe died out so quickly. And the people in the middle hate when one candidate is so aggressively attacking the other viciously without any control. And that was what the vibe turned into toward the end of the campaign period. What started with vibe, joyful warriors of a thing, turned into he's a fascist. He is a threat to the American democracy. He is a threat to the world. He is a disgrace. Yeah. I don't exonerate Trump also because he was calling those names. But his target was more of the candidate. On the contrary, even though Kamala was targeting Trump himself, they were obvious how they described the MAGA people. They described them as maniacs. That apart, the ground game, which includes bringing out the voters, was more perfectly done by Lara Trump and the co-chairman of the RNC than the Democrat. The Democrat overestimated their ability. They overestimated themselves because naturally they are the people who are very much perfect with ballot harvesting than the Republicans. On the contrary, they didn't know that they were prepared for. For instance, in Pennsylvania, I've forgotten his name, then went to get the vote of the Amish people. Amish population, almost 70,000 people. Almost 70,000 people were registered from the Amish. And these are people who don't vote at all. It's not about low propensity voters. No, they don't vote at all. This group, they don't vote. But due to the grassroots of the Republicans, most of them registered and the majority of them voted. How did they do that? That is when you show people that they can trust you, they follow you to wherever you are going. Kamala was not able to do that. On the contrary, every single thing she did was a display that she was out of touch with the common people. She was going with the celebrities. Oprah, Usha, Beyonce. But at the end of the day, those individuals, we watch them to enjoy their entertainment. We don't take advice from them because they're not even living good life, moral life themselves. They don't identify with us. Their lifestyle is different from the one we are living. And that is my own thought about that. I don't mean myself, I mean the American people. That is what I think about how it ended up. But as it ended, on the night of the election, the people that had the better game plan won the night. So before we, as I said, I have the video, the compilation to show you, but that comes at the end of the show so that you watch it yourself and see what I saw. The people who made this video were geniuses. They were amazing because they captured from their smugness, from their overconfidence, to their condescension until they die out, like literally gave up, because they realized that all their projections, all their hopes that were so high, all their smugness, all their holier than thou attitude ended in naught. So while we are on that, the next thing, Trump, since he won the presidency, has ratcheted up his nomination of those who will do the job with him. He's not here to joke. He's not here to mess around. He's picking people who he believed will give him what he promised the people. And unlike the first time around when he was the president, as I said at the beginning of this show, he didn't know much people. He had to rely on the recommendations of the recommendations of people. So 2 layers of recommendations. And at the end, he ended up with people like Christopher Wray, the FBI, the man in charge of FBI, the FBI chief. He ended up with Mike Pompeo, who was amazing, but didn't hold back to criticize him when the classified document issue was there. He ended up with Mike Pence, who, it can be understood, they fell out at the January 6th issue, but he lacked forgiveness, even though he prided himself as a Christian. I'm sorry if I'm judging his faith. That is not what I intend to do. But considering how they came, it wouldn't have been difficult to forgive what happened in January 6th. Because throughout that period, Trump avoided saying anything bad about Mike Pence. Even till now, he still says he's a good man. Now, but this time around, he's picking people who are both loyal to him and loyal to the MAGA movement. Then these are real MAGA people who were there to fulfill the mandate that he was given. Because the Republicans won the presidency, they won the control of the Senate, and they won control of the House. And also the court is Republican dominated. So he has the mandate. And there's no reason to give any excuse if they don't achieve what they promised, at least during these first 2 years. If they fail, then they are scorched. So that can explain why he had a lot of loyalists and people who are really qualified in my own sense and who are ready to run for it immediately. Last time, he had people who backstabbed him. Rosenstein, who was the acting attorney general. Sessions, who was more or less weak, who couldn't do anything, and looked why they ran over him and appointed a special counsel to investigate him on a Russia nonsense. So this time he has people, especially first of all the campaign manager. The campaign manager, she had been with her in wet and dry, in and out of season, in good and in bad. So that was the first appointment he made. He gave her the chief of staff. And then James Miner happened to be also assistant chief of staff, and his own area is advising in regard to homeland security. You see, these are people who are ready to take a bullet for him. These are people who are ready to take a bullet for him. But at these two layers, there were no issue. There were no opera. The whole hell exploded when he nominated this guy. Watch.
Overnight, Trump announcing he'd like Pete Hegseth, an Army veteran, best-selling author, and longtime host here on Fox to lead the Department of Defense. Trump writing, Pete has spent his entire life as a warrior for the troops and for the country. Pete is tough, smart, and a true believer in America first.
Yeah. When Trump nominated Pete Hegseth to be the Secretary of Defense, the heads and minds of the establishment and those of MSNBC, CNN, and all of them exploded. Literally exploded. Elizabeth Warren just literally called him Fox Sunday host, and the ladies in The View, the same thing. The condescension, the same thing that characterizes their attitude, was in the display. But they forgot to mention that this guy was a decorated veteran. That they never even mentioned that he was a soldier in any way. But he was. Pete was not just an ardent defender of Trump. He spoke out when his house was raided, when Fannie Williams was dragging him around at the court in Georgia, when Letitia James was dragging him around in the court in New York, when Judge Engron was flying him up and down the E.G. Carey case, when Alvin Bragg, Pete constantly spoke up. And he wasn't speaking up because he was a buddy to Trump. He just hated what they were doing. And also he was really, really mad after the debacle withdrawal from Afghanistan. He made it clear that every single one of the people who were involved in that withdrawal was supposed to be fired. And he gave reasons for them. He also spoke up against women being drafted for pure combat position in the military. He has his reasons. Some people were against it, some people were for it. But if you are open-minded, is it not good to hear his own perspective? Now, there was a lot of condescending talks about him, and there are a lot of a caricature of what he was as a Fox Sunday show host. But they refused to mention that actually he was a veteran, decorated veteran with 2 Bronze Stars. But then his colleagues at Fox News had this to say about him while reciting his qualifications.
Look at this. He served our country. Army National Guard infantry officer, served tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. Then he was a guard at Gitmo, 2 Bronze Stars, combat infantryman badge.
Yep. He went to also Princeton and Harvard. Of course, he's been at Fox News for 10 years, and he was the CEO of Concerned Veterans of America. A huge pick by the president-elect. And if you're wondering why Washington is freaking out about this appointment, you know he wrote a book about the corruption that's going on in the Department of Defense, all the focus on wokeness. As you remember, they also targeted him, tried to force him into retirement. And so if the Pentagon is not in support of this, that there may be a little reason why.
And the reason, and this is a great point, Lawrence, the fact that he has written a number of New York Times #1 best-selling books, but his book called War on Warriors, essentially, and I'm sure Donald Trump either has read the book or has watched Pete's specials, and Donald Trump would go, you know what he's talking about right there is what I would like to do. So this is why it makes perfect sense why Pete would get tapped for this particular job.
Keep an eye on Lee Zeldin.
Come to think of it, the major critique against him was that he is unqualified. But common sense view about this is this. If those who were really qualified, Lord Austin, James Maynard, they are qualified, so to speak, but they witnessed the both Afghanistan withdrawal, the death of the 13 soldiers, whose parents and whose families they never cared to call, not for once throughout the whole 4 years. The invasion of Ukraine by Russia, the war going on in Israel, Iran, shooting at them, Gaza and Lebanon. The qualified ones witness all this. What can get wrong? What is wrong with giving this young man a chance? No, they don't give such chances. For them, what makes you qualified is your credentials, and he has the credentials. What else is supposed to qualify him? Must he be a general? Or if he must be a general, is it the criteria for being wise? If it is the criteria for being wise, then the people who witness all of these downfalls were supposed to be fired because their wisdom was not enough. And that is my own perspective. At the end of the video, you can tell me, at the end of the show, you can tell me what your own perspective is. If you think that he should not be given a chance, at least to show if he is capable. Everyone knows that Trump fires the people who don't work hard enough, who don't live up to their expectation. If you think that he doesn't deserve a chance, just write it at the comments. I will happily see your point. I'll be happy to see your point and slug it out with you from my own perspective. As a matter of fact, this is not a know-it-all show. I am subject to failure. I will get a lot of things wrong. But what I promise you is that whenever I get something wrong, I will come here to set it straight and render an apology that is addressed to it. Now, going forward, Donald Trump also nominated Ratcliffe. Ratcliffe was the Secretary of Director of National Intelligence in his previous appointment. But this time around, he said that there were a lot of secrets hidden both for the Afghanistan withdrawal and old secrets, including the JFK assassination and also the Trump assassination attempt, that he wants to go where the secrets are, which is the CIA. So he is now the CIA chief. And here is what Trump has to say about Ratcliffe.
Former Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe is Trump's pick for CIA director. He'd also previously served in Congress and spoken out frequently about the threat China and Iran pose. Trump also calling for Mike Huckabee, the former Baptist minister, Arkansas governor, and TV host, to be his ambassador to Israel. Huckabee says he is honored to serve, writing, "It's been an incredible day as Trump asked me to serve as his ambassador to Israel, a land I've been visiting since 1973 when I was a teenager. It will be a privilege to serve my country and my president in this role."
Yes, Trump also nominated Mike Huckabee as the ambassador to Israel. Now, Mike Huckabee was one of the people he demolished in his first cycle of campaigning. But after that, they became really close. That even his daughter Sarah Sanders, is the current governor of Arkansas. Is the daughter of Mike Huckabee. The bond of these families have been going on since then, and as you can see, Mike showed his appreciation for being given the opportunity to serve his country. He has a very progressing and flourishing show. But come on, who wouldn't like to be a part of something important, something bigger than himself? The show will always succeed. The show will always be alive. And he had this one chance to be in a country he loves so much. So everyone knows that Trump values loyalty a lot. But it's not just loyalty this time. The reason why he was getting these people who are close to him around him, I call it bulletproof protection. Because the last time, the people who put knives in his back were the people who he hired. The first person who was among the first group to fall out of his group was Omarosa. Omarosa has been with Trump for a very long time. But at the early stage of the administration, she fell out and wrote a book, her 15 Minutes of Fame. This time around, he doesn't want to repeat the mistake a second time. That is why he's picking people who are MAGA, first of all, who are loyal both to him and to the country, and who are intelligent. That means they are capable of doing the work and they are capable of interpreting the mandate that was given to him. So, now, there are one other person who he nominated, the appointment to the Secretary of Homeland Security is a woman who everyone thought would have been his vice president, only that there was a stain. She shot her puppy. And you know the world we live in, the puppy, the dog is people's friend. So when the people heard that she shot her dog, she turned from the mega star, a potential vice president, to a puppy killer, and she was hated. Even when she explained what led to killing the puppy, that he was killing other livestock they had in their farm and biting people, both visitors and even her kids, it was too late to explain, because she wrote it in the book in a kind of a bragging way, and that was what was understood. But that notwithstanding, Trump picked her to be the Secretary of Homeland Security.
Overnight, Trump also making it official. He wants South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem to lead the Department of Homeland Security. Noem says she is both honored and humbled by the opportunity. But perhaps the biggest headline today is Trump tapping Elon Musk, the owner of Twitter and Tesla, I should say X, not Twitter these days, and Vivek Ramaswamy, the former presidential candidate, to lead an agency that would be tasked with trying to reshape the federal government itself, to cut through bureaucracy, to shrink the size of the federal government.
When I was putting these clips together, I have not heard about the appointment of Rick Gates. Rick Gates was appointed the Attorney General of the Federation, and that was like a bomb dropped inside Washington, D.C. Everyone went berserk. Everyone went crazy. If it were the proverbial Caiaphas, they ripped off their clothes. What is going on? A lot of things were said, but his decision was made. Rick Gates, everyone knows him. He has been a MAGA guy, and he's one person who doesn't believe that big money should be in politics, and he has maintained that by taking money not from the big corporation but from individual little donations, and he has been faithful on that. Apart from that, he was the one who made sure that McCarthy was removed as Speaker of the House. So his appointment was one of controversy, even though he has not even reached the confirmation stage, which everyone knew would spin people's head around. That being said, at the beginning of this video, I told you that I have a special video that was put together by a group of people who call themselves America 2100. That is 2100, the future of America. So I have to figure out where that show. It is one of the best of it I have ever seen. It is simply amazing, and I want you to watch it with me. It is not too long. If you can watch it to the end, you will see why I love it a lot. If you cannot, just when you have time, go and complete watching it. You will love it and see how according to the scripture, pride goes before a fall. How they prided themselves too much, and how a monumental failure followed it. It's like the rise and fall of Kamala Harris in one single compilation video, and that was taken on the election day. But before we go to the video, please go and check them on Twitter or X. The name is America 2100, or you go to their website america2100.org. Just show them some love, because it takes a mark of genius to come to this type of compilation. Just 8 minutes in all, but it captured the entire election, both the campaign and election day, and for me, post-election of Kamala Harris, MSNBC, and the mainstream media in general. So please, I give you 2100, America 2100 coverage of MSNBC's reaction on the election day.
All the anticipation, all the excitement, all the anxiety, all the doom scrolling, all the manic refreshing of polling averages, it has all been leading to this hour. And we know you have every choice in the world for where to spend tonight, so we're really grateful that you're spending it with us, and we hope you'll be with us through the duration.
How's everybody doing? First time voting?
Yes.
How you feeling?
Good.
You guys doing okay too?
Yes, we're doing great. Kamala. Woo!
I was going to ask who you're going to vote for, but I didn't need to.
Kamala, because lives matter.
First-time voting. As you know, this is where the Harris campaign wants to drive up the numbers to sort of counteract that T in the middle of Pennsylvania, to counteract the rural votes that the Trump campaign is expected to get.
And so what you've seen in the last couple of weeks, if this is an audition for managing a complex organization like the United States, Kamala Harris has passed the audition flawlessly. This has been, in many ways, a perfect campaign. And what the campaign is talking about now is the granular get out the vote effort that you just don't see on the other side. On the other side, you're seeing Charlie Kirk going on Twitter this morning and begging people to vote.
The last week has been a very good close for Kamala Harris, not a good close for Donald Trump. He hasn't been able to fill the rallies. He's addled. He has racist comedians opening up. Whatever. It's been a trashy week for Donald Trump. It's been a very strong week for Kamala Harris.
ASU, the campus that we're on right now, ASU students, the population is about 74,000. So a lot of people voting here. When it comes to a lot of the young women that we've been talking to, reproductive rights is huge. It's a big driver. It's a lot of the conversation that we're hearing.
We've got about 10 now completed of those rural, heavily Trump counties. We're talking about places where he's going to get 70, 75, 80% of the vote. In all 10 that have now been completed, Trump's vote share relative to 2020 has gone up.
I'm just going to give a couple of everybody take a breath warnings here. We don't know what's going to happen in Georgia. It's like a baby blue state, I'm going to say, in that it has not been blue for a long time. It is a hard state for the Harris team.
One of the things that was so striking about the public polling and the public data going into this election was that the public polling said this is the closest race that we've ever had.
Yeah.
Basically. I mean, that was the consensus view. And there was a real question about, well, maybe the public polling's wrong, and maybe it's going to miss a few points in one direction or another. We don't know at this point. It's very early in the evening. But I would say at 8:50, it's a very, very close race.
I'd say that if you are just joining us right this second at 8:52:06, and I had to summarize what's going on, no surprises.
Yeah, right.
Pretty much that's what's happened thus far. In Georgia, it's too close to call. In Pennsylvania, it's too close to call. In Wisconsin, it's too close to call. In Michigan, sing it with me now. It's too close to call.
Let's be blunt. I think when you watched what Donald Trump did in 2020, what Democrats were fantasizing about was a landslide victory. And so some of what was wanted and desired was a sweep that really wasn't on the table. We live in an evenly divided country, and it creates anxiety, but it also requires patience.
It is fairly shocking. And I don't think it's something that should make us super proud. You just think about just the last 2 weeks and the things that Donald Trump has said. If all of that gets you half of the votes,
48, 49%.
What does it tell you? I mean, we need to really take a step back and think about what does that say about us?
I mean, blue wall, baby, there was always going to be a blue wall night. Some of the fantasies, right, of a landslide victory that would erase any doubt, that would eradicate, the threat. I think it's going to be a late night. The polls have accurately captured this dead heat.
Ari, since you were last with us, I've got nothing to report.
Well, the crowd here is still large, is still loud, but a little bit more subdued. And the word that I keep hearing is the idea that people here are nauseously optimistic, not just cautiously optimistic, but nauseously optimistic. The real focus now is on that blue wall in the Midwest. They knew that this was going to be a long night and that it was going to be a real nail biter, and it appears that is exactly what we're looking at right now.
We've been saying for weeks, says Ms. O'Malley Dillon, quote, that this race might not be called tonight. Those of you who were around in 2020 know this well. What we do know is this race is not going to come into focus until the early morning hours.
Part of the objective of this email is to say to the people on the team, hang in there, guys. It's not over. We're still getting votes in. We still need to keep talking to people, keep people in lines, tell your grandma it's going to be okay.
We now have an NBC News call in the first one, Joy. North Carolina called for Donald Trump.
Yep. And so it was,
We now have all the vote in Luzerne County. Donald Trump is going to win this by a little bit more than 21 points. 4 years ago, it was 14. We also saw him make those gains in Lackawanna County right next door earlier tonight. Democrats wanted more of a Trump drop-off here. They don't get it in Lebanon County tonight. In 2020, Joe Biden won here by essentially 27 points. Sits at about 24.5. In Chester County, more significant drop-off for Harris from Biden. Next door in Montgomery County, Harris is now running up point behind where Joe Biden finished in this county. Biden won this by 4.5 points in 2020. Trump has now taken the lead in Bucks County.
NBC News now projects that in the battleground state of Georgia in the presidential race, Donald Trump has prevailed. The Republican Party will control the United States Senate. This is live from Howard University in Washington, D.C.
We still have votes to count. We still have states that have not been called yet. We will continue overnight to fight to make sure that every vote is counted. Thank you all.
A short and to-the-point statement from Cedric Richmond, the Harris campaign co-chair. You now see them turn as one to start to leave the grounds.
The evening was getting increasingly somber as people realized what this map is looking like. They turned off the TV set and just piped up the music because the room was starting to get increasingly somber.
You know, we always knew it was going to be down to the blue wall, and the blue wall is still uncalled at this point. But it sounds like the Harris campaign is sort of keeping things tight in terms of whether or not they're going to string people along into thinking this is going to happen.
What they went to that venue tonight hoping to see and witness was a historic election of Kamala Harris to the presidency, was the end of the Trump era as they knew it. And so we don't know the outcome yet, but that is not what they are receiving, and they are being told to go home and wait till tomorrow.
And nothing that was true yesterday about how flawlessly this campaign was run is not true now. I mean, this really was an historic, flawlessly run campaign. Queen Latifah never endorses anyone. She came out and endorsed. You know, I mean, she had every prominent celebrity voice. She had the Swifties. She had the Beehive. Like, you could not have run a better campaign.
In Western Europe and in the UK and in the Middle East, people are waking up to this.
Oh, and they are.
I've gotten people from Western Europe who are extraordinarily alarmed and terrified.
May I reiterate, there are 2 of the 7 swing states that have been called by NBC News right now, which is Georgia and North Carolina. None of the other 5 states have been called at this point. You can see this is the battleground states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, the so-called blue wall. None of those states called by NBC News. In the swing state of Pennsylvania, NBC News now projects that presidential contest has been won by Donald Trump. It presents an insurmountable future here for Kamala Harris and for the Democratic ticket. Let's watch as Trump takes the stage in Palm Beach, Florida.
We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy?
Boy, it's going to be a real tough speech for her.
Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you saw, please subscribe, like and share, and leave your comment. If there is anything you have a disagreement on the show, please leave me a comment, and also give me your perspective about the people Trump chose for his cabinet. And let's meet again. Like, share, and subscribe, and also click the small bell there to help me grow the channel. Thank you very much, and let's see again another time. Bye.